black in 6 months out of the year. Yeah, the traffic here is ungodly.
Honestly, it's like I spent the last, 2.5 years here, and it's nothing compared to New York. The cost of living down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, it's at housing. Housing is a 32% below the national average. The groceries are up, but that's everywhere with inflation going.
Hi, I'm Mary Calamia, licensed real estate salesperson with North Shore Properties Realty, and welcome to my channel, Living in Suffolk County, New York. Wait, if I'm in Suffolk County, New York, why am I in a podcast called Living in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina? Well, the answer is simple. People want to move out of Suffolk County and head south. They want to get away from the cold winters and the high cost of living. And one of the most popular destinations for Suffolk County residents to move to is Horry County, South Carolina, which is where you'll find the great city of Myrtle Beach. And I've got my good friends down there, Cris Melendez and Alicia Stern, and they are transplants from Suffolk County, and they chose the Myrtle Beach area to make their new home. They are also licensed in South Carolina and North Carolina, and they're even working on licensing in Florida. And what we do is I help people sell their homes up here, and they help people find their new homes down there. So one day Cris and I got to talking. I was just asking him why he chose Myrtle Beach. And he was asking me, what is stopping people from moving there? So we decided to podcast it. Cris is going to tell you all of the reasons he and Alicia chose Myrtle Beach. And I'm going to address the barriers that are preventing people from leaving, the things that make them feel so stuck. And maybe I'll help you get unstuck. So stay tuned and enjoy our podcast.
All right, welcome to episode number 1 of Living in Myrtle Beach podcast. I'm so excited. I was just telling Mary, off the air that everything I've done in my life pretty much prepared me for this. I've had podcasts before. I had podcasts that had nothing to do with real estate. But now I figured I wanted to do a podcast because I do videos on my YouTube channel that, shows people the areas and new construction and all that, but I wanted to give you a different feel. I wanted you to get to know us personally, and I think this was the best way to do it. With that being said, I want to introduce Mary Calamia. She works for North Shore Properties Realty up in New York. That is my realty also, because I have my license parked up there because I'm licensed in New York. I'm licensed in North Carolina. My wife Alicia is licensed in North, South, and New York. But I didn't follow her lead in North Carolina because she had a license there. But anyway, with that being said, I want to welcome Mary onto the show.
Hey,
how are you doing?
Cris, thank you. Thanks. I'm so honored to be your first guest.
You're the first. And the reason why I wanted to bring you on was because I know we had spoke about, off the air, in a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about the reasons why I moved down here. And you really wanted to know why I moved down here. And I was just like, well, honestly, I'll tell you my reasons. And after I told you my reasons, we were like, this would make a great show. This would make a great podcast. People want to know. I mean, my reasons may not be the same reasons you may want to move down here, but, being a retired first responder, in New York City, I was a police officer for 6 years, and then I switched over to the FDNY. I became a fireman, and I did 25 years altogether. I wanted to give people a perspective of the reasons why I moved, So today I'm gonna be discussing the 5 reasons why I moved, and the number 1 reason, which I'm gonna tell you at the end, and I'm gonna show you with graphics the reasons why I moved. People are very visual, so I want to show you visually why I moved down here and my number 1 reason. So make sure you stick around to the end. And Mary, what are you going to be discussing? I know we're talking about barriers and stuff like that.
I'm going to be talking about the other angle. In addition to being a real estate salesperson, I also am a clinical social worker, and I work with a lot of people who start sentences with, I would move out of New York if only. So I'm going to be talking about the barriers. What are the things that prevent people from making the jump? They really want to get out of here. They really want to go someplace like Myrtle Beach, but there's something holding them back. And we're going to talk about those barriers.
Awesome. And I'm sure that some of those barriers are going to be my my barriers as well. I mean, again, it wasn't an easy decision. I know you may think it was, but it wasn't. And I'm sure that you're going to be touching on some of those barriers that I've I had to work through to make the move. But anyway, again, my name is Cris Melendez. I work for BRG Real Estate down here in Myrtle Beach, and you can call, text me anytime. My number's right there. Mary's number, if you live in New York, Mary's there for you. If you have any questions regarding property, how much your property's worth, or if you just want to get some information about, relocating, you can contact her. Again, we worked hand in hand here, relocating people down here to the Myrtle Beach area. So contact her for any of those questions. So anyway, let's get right into it. Episode number 1. I'm super excited because I don't know what it is. I get excited after a podcast is done. I feel like I have a lot of energy, and I want to do more. So this is my first one back. But the first reason why I moved down here, I'm going to tell you a brief story. So I retired, and then I spent the next 6 months retirement working on my business up there. Again, I've been a realtor since 2002. So I was working on my business up there. I was semi-retired and working on real estate up there. And I just spent my first winter of being, retired from the fire department, looking out my window, looking at my in-ground pool, and it was just dreary and rainy and cloudy for like 2 weeks straight. And I'm like looking out my window and I tell myself, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? Did I know where I wanted to go? No, because initially we were looking in Florida, we were looking in Texas, we were looking in Arizona, we were looking in Las Vegas. South Carolina was not even in my thought, So Alicia did most of the research. It was her decision. She says, let's look into Myrtle Beach. I go, I know nothing about Myrtle Beach, but I took the leap of faith. And once I started looking at the weather in Myrtle Beach, I go, I can deal with these mild winters here. I mean, today it's about 55 degrees. For the most part, the average temperature in the winter is about between 55 and 60, which is pretty cool. And we have short winters down here. So, it starts getting cold about the end of November, or cooler. And then it's just like 60, 55 degrees, December and January, right? And then it just like warms up, next couple of weeks, we're going to begin hit, 70, 75 degrees here in a couple of weeks. So it's great. So that was that was my number 5 reason why I said, you know what, let's make the move. I'm sick and tired of living here in this dreary weather and long winters in New York. But that was my number 1 reason. I mean, my number 5 reason for relocating down here in South Carolina.
So can I ask real quick about the weather? Because somebody just asked me today, how hot do the summers get there?
Yes. Well, you have to take the good with the bad.
Okay.
You have to take the good with the bad. The summers do get very hot, very humid. Not hot, very humid. But the pro is I live in a community that has 7 pools, a lazy river, and I'm about a mile from the beach. So if I want to cool off, I can do so whenever I feel like, I just love the fact that we have milder winters here, and I take the good with the bad. Yeah, there's a couple of weeks in August where I just don't want to go out. But that's why I have AC, and for the most part, you gotta deal with it, but I'd rather deal with that and have shorter winters.
Well, compare that to like 3 months up here that you don't want to go out. So
True, very, very true. So Mary, tell me about one of the barriers that people may face that you've been finding out, you've been learning out there in Suffolk
yeah,
County.
so number 5 on my list is people don't want to leave here because of their proximity to New York City,
Mhm.
and all of the cultural attractions that we have here, Broadway, concert venues, sports venues. They feel very very happy to be able to get in and out of the city. Even if you live where I live in Central Suffolk, it's 2 hours into the city, but it's still a day trip.
Right.
And so they don't want to leave that behind.
Yeah.
But I help them to see that there are cultural attractions in other parts of the country. Even theater happens outside of New York, right?
Yeah, I mean, down here, there are a few theaters down here, but I really don't, I'm not a theater guy, but
Sorry.
I will tell you, that doesn't matter. I know people say New York, it's 24/7 entertainment, whatever, everything's open. Well, down here, I was just driving the other day. It was about, 58 degrees out, and I'm driving down, by the beach, and there was a festival going on. There's always something going on down here. There's a lot of events, a lot of festivals, but I totally understand where, I mean, that's one of my reasons. New York was everything I knew. And I just love the fact that, you know, whatever I wanted to get into in New York, I could, because everything was there, you know.
Yeah, and I ask people when they put up that barrier also to ask themselves, how often do you actually do it? How often do you actually go to a concert or the theater or a sporting event? And when they stop to think about it, like you could come up here for a weekend and do that. You if you really, really needed to do it in New York City, you could come up for a weekend because they may be only doing it once a year.
Exactly. And that's my number two reason for moving down here. We're gonna get into that later on. But that was one of my reasons, you know, for moving down here midway.
Mhm.
But totally, you know, I mean, I get it. You know, there was I know it sounds petty, but there was a one, like, I'm big into eating health food, you know, I like eating my meals. So there was one place, it was you know, a health food store, and it had pre-made food for you. Um, and I used to go there every day. I used to buy my meals for the week, and not every day, but for the week. And I had food for the week, didn't have to cook. Down here, they don't really have that, you know? So that's something I had to give up. So I totally understand, you know, I know theater and food is totally different, you know, things, but in a,
That's not different though. It's that's it. Yeah,
okay.
it's what
So,
you used to.
yeah. So, the next reason, my number four reason for moving down here, honestly, I mean, I spent COVID up there. I was actually a fireman. I was still a fireman during COVID. It was one of the toughest times for all of us up there, you know, living in New York, where everything was shut down, and except big box stores and, you know, liquor stores and 7-Elevens. But for the most, and there was no rhyme or reason for other places being closed, you know. But um, it was just very depressing, and I was so depressed. Like, everything was so negative and so depressing, and, you know, this mask mandate. You know, however you feel about that, I totally understand. I respect your decision, but it was like every day you go into a store, like if you had your mask down, like just below, you had people like policing you, telling you got to put your mask on. It was just so authoritarian,
Mhm.
and I was just like, and I lived in New York all my life. I lived in that. I lived during Giuliani's era. I was a police officer during Giuliani's era, and it was totally different. He was, you know, he was, you know, he was a Republican, obviously. People may not like him, but, you know, he did right by the city by making it a beacon of safety and all that stuff, you know. So, um, but I just, after, you know, I mean, I don't want to, again, talking about politics, it's not really good for real estate, but I really don't care because it has to be said. You know, living in a democratic state, um, it was just tough for me, and that was one of the major reasons why I moved down here. Again, South Carolina did have their own shutdowns as well. Didn't last as long as New York's, but they did have their shutdown. There's nobody in this country. There's no politician in this country that has clean hands in this. They all follow directions. You know, every governor had to say as to what they wanted to do and what they felt was right for their people. Okay. I understand that. But at the same time, you know, I'm a big Second Amendment guy. I wanted to come down here, you know, being a Second Amendment guy, I wanted to come down here and feel that freedom. As soon as I came down here, I felt all the freedom in the world. And I was so happy with the move. But again, people don't like talking about politics, but it has to be said, you know, those are
Uh,
my reasons.
it certainly factors into a lot of people's decisions where they go, where they choose to go when they do move.
Mhm.
It's a factor. There were people who were more comfortable here. They loved the mandates. They felt safe. You'd be interested to know that because you're a New York City employee anyway.
Yeah.
Um, they are doing away now with those sheds, those restaurant sheds that were on all of the crosstown streets. Now they're
Oh
starting.
my God. Don't get me into those
They're
sheds.
getting rid of those now. They're getting rid of those, and they're replacing it with outdoor dining, real outdoor dining, not outdoor dining.
Yeah. You know, what's so crazy. As I drove around the neighborhood, even, you know, I just kept saying to myself, I go, how is this keeping safe? You see buses driving down, blowing smoke into your food. It just, nothing made sense to me. It was just, I felt like I was a crazy person. I thought I was a crazy person. I was telling myself, how is this more healthy than eating inside? You're
Yeah,
you're inhaling bus smoke onto your food. It made absolutely no sense. And
yeah.
for those of you that don't know, in New York City, what they did was they put these makeshift, like, outdoor seating in the streets. in the where the parking section was, were in the streets, and people were out there eating.
But indoors. They were outdoors, but you were indoors.
No, some of them were indoors. Some of them had no windows.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was open. It was all open.
Oh,
Some
oh, okay, yeah.
some of them were all makeshift, like it was just little structures with no windows, and people were eating in there, and there was smoke blowing into like bus smoke blowing into their food. It just made no sense.
Yeah, yeah, no. A lot of things don't make sense, but
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I get it. I get it. So my number four reason is a tad different. It's familiarity. You know, when you are living in a home 30, 35, 40 years even, and you're starting to think about making a move and downsizing, and you know the neighbors, you know all the roads, you know the streets, and you know they say the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. You know how it is here. You know the rules, you know the laws, you know what's going to happen. You can predict and forecast. You know, if we had another lockdown, you know what you would expect here compared to what you'd expect somewhere else. And people stick with what's old and familiar. It's a fear factor thing, right? I would have to encapsulate this with the word fear, fear of change, fear of the unknown. I know how to get where I'm going. I know the roads. I know the public infrastructure and the railroad and whatever. And I don't know anything about that in Myrtle Beach. I'm going to have to learn everything all over again. Where do I get jammed up in traffic? Where's the safe place to park? All of those things. People are afraid that they're going to have to learn all of that.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of my barriers. Um, you know, New York was everything I knew. I grew up in Brooklyn, and then I worked in Queens, and it's everything I knew. And that's one of the things that really, no, I wasn't fearful, but I was a little bit apprehensive and say, okay, well, this is new to me. Am I gonna like it? Am I not gonna like it? So, what we decided to do was, let's buy a condo first, see if we like it, tip our toes in there, and then eventually get a home, get a big house, a decent sized house. But we decided to go with the condo route initially to see if we liked it. Because renting was almost equivalent as having a mortgage down here. We're going to be discussing the cost of living down here as my number one reason for moving. But if you're enjoying this, if you have any questions, leave it in the comment section below. Let us know where you're currently living and where you wish to move. Again, we are licensed in South Carolina, North Carolina, New York, and eventually Alicia's getting her license down in Florida as well. And also, I am the Heroes Agent. If you are a first responder member of the military looking to purchase or sell a home, let us know. We give 15% back at closing as a way to say thank you. You can visit theheroesagents.com, theheroesagents.com.
So, and just going back to familiarity, Cris, I'm just a tad bit older. Thank you. And it is difficult when you get older. You're 65, 70, 75 years old, thinking about driving unfamiliar roads, thinking about driving at night in places you're not familiar with. What's beautiful about some of these communities down there is, they're golf cart ready. You don't even need to drive your car.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything's on the premises. You may only have to drive a half a mile or a few blocks to go enjoy some of the amenities.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I know I did two videos which are on my channel. We did a complete overview of Bridgeport and also not Bridgeport, Bridgewater and Waterbridge. These are two communities where they have everything in there. It's like a resort style living. They have events for kids, for young adults, for older people. So it's true, you don't really have to go. And every time I speak to somebody that you don't have to go anywhere. Anytime I speak to somebody who lives there, they are so happy. They got pickleball and they got tournaments and they got all this thing. They're really into that community feel. But that's totally true.
Yeah, even shopping, right?
Yep, shopping too. Shopping as well.
Exactly.
So my number three reason for coming down here was because being a New York City resident, working as a police officer, working as a fireman, living in that congestion and that busyness of New York City, I wanted to live finally in a laid back area. I wanted to have that laid back lifestyle. that would help me with my stress. Because every time I come home from work, I'm just like, my shoulders were like this because I held my stress up here. Now my shoulders are down. I'm so relaxed down here. It seems like it's always sunny here. It may be a little cold sometimes, but the sun seems to be always out down here. And if I ever want to go walk on the beach with my dogs, I mean, that is such a stress release in the morning. I'll go walk my dogs, and it's awesome. Everybody's down there walking their dogs. It's just very laid back, very stressful. And there's a lot of pros and cons to living in a laid back area. Because if you go to order food at a particular restaurant, it may take a little longer, because everything's a lot, everything moves a lot slower down here. And also the first thing I noticed was we went to Target, Alicia and I, and we go, man, this is a long line. And the reason why there was a long line, because every cash register lady, they were having conversations with people.
Mhm.
That were buying stuff and just having conversations with them, and just the friendly atmosphere, and these people just laid back. But that's one of the things. Drawbacks, you're gonna be waiting online a little longer because people like to talk down here.
so that's almost in contrast to my number three, which is that people are connected to social networks here, and they have to be, because the lady at the supermarket's not even going to talk to you.
Yeah.
So people want to hang on to their friends and friendships. They've been invested a lot of years in some of these friendships. And it's kind of a cold and distant reality here. You go into the city, nobody even looks you in the eye, right? You know that. Everybody's just looking at their feet. You can't even say hello to somebody on the subway, and they're just like, they look at you like you have two heads.
Well, I'm guilty of that. So
I'm that person. I talk to everybody.
yeah.
So, you get these friends that you're clinging on to, and you say, oh my God, how am I ever going to meet people? I don't want to go. I want to stay here because I love my friends and I love my social connections.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens down there, though? Again, I have to show people, look at these places. They're as social as you could possibly get. These communities have all kinds of activities and events, and if they don't have activities and events on the premises, they're within minutes of recreation centers and all kinds of other things that you can get involved with, and you're going to have friends in no time. And you're still going to keep the friends you have in New York because they're going to come visit you in that spare bedroom.
Exactly. You always have to have a spare bedroom for people coming from New York.
100%.
Yeah. But yeah, totally. I mean, as I mentioned, Bridgewater is one of those communities. I mean, they have a calendar of events, things that are going on in the community. And if you go to and look at the video that I made of the community, we walked through a couple of some of the model homes that they have. It's a new construction community, and we walked through some of their model homes, and I took drone footage of the amenity center. It's just beautiful. It really is.
I saw your video. It was amazing. I actually have the Bridgewater brochure right next to me. That's outstanding. The other thing that people need to know in New York is those activities and events are 12 months out of the year.
Yeah.
Here, you belong to a golf club. 3 months out of the year, it's closed. You're not golfing. You can't. You can't see the ball under the snow. Yeah. But whatever you want to do here is time limited. Summer activities. I live in a community that has a pool that's open for 3 months. In 9 months, it's sitting there with a loop lock cover over it.
Yeah, true.
So if you want to be active and social, 12 months out of the year.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Which brings me to my next reason for moving down here, which is my number 4 reason. Oh, well, my number 2 reason for moving down here is easy access to other states and nearby states. So as I mentioned originally, I was going to make my primary residence down in Florida. We did eventually buy something down there. We go back and forth, and it's more of an investment property more than anything. But I needed access back to, because originally, as I mentioned, I was going to move down to Texas and not California, God forbid, Arizona. And, but it was like off, it was away from the East Coast, and being a fireman, a retired fireman, I still got to come up to New York for my 9/11 medicals. They still going to check me out every single year. So, and I have a dog, and my dog doesn't fly. I can't put my dog on a plane. So I needed easy access back to New York. So I'm only about 11 hours away. So for instance, next month I have to go and get my medicals done. I will be taking a drive up there. It takes me 11 hours. I break it up, but it's an easy drive. Coming back, it's an easier drive. Going up there, once you hit the tri-state area, it's a little, busy. But I needed access both to New York and Florida, now that we have a home down there as well. And as I mentioned, originally I was going to go to Florida too, but you know, and I found out that there's a word for us. They call us halfbacks because we originally were going to go to Florida. We decided to be in the middle of, of Florida and New York. So I think South Carolina was a perfect situation for me.
That is really funny because that's why I was going to move to Florida. So I'll be a halfback because you keep convincing me that Myrtle Beach is the place to go. You know,
Oh,
that's great.
yeah.
So my number two, and I'm hoping you can speak to this to give some people some reassurance, but people don't want to leave their doctors.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
hospitals here, great healthcare system. We've got out here in Suffolk County, we've got that Stony Brook system. We've got some great other hospital systems here, and and access again to great hospitals and doctors in Manhattan. So, what do we tell people about the Myrtle Beach area?
Yeah, well, in the Myrtle Beach area, you have tons of people down here. Tons of medical facilities are down here. Actually, one of the top employees are healthcare professionals because all along the Grand Strand, we have McLeod Medical. I mean, we have Conway Medical as well, McLeod. We have tons of medical facilities down here, and the reason why is because a lot of the people that move down here are retired. They are elderly. They need their medical coverages down here. That is one thing that you really don't have to worry about. The one thing I would tell those who are first responders who are looking to move down here, when I first moved down here, they would not take my medical coverage, but now you can have a primary doctor down here now. They signed on to the Grand Strand area. Conway Medical now takes our coverage. So and that's because a lot of first responders from New York were moving down here, and they finally said, you know what, we have to give them coverage down there. But now we're covered, and that's one of the things that I tell my first responders who I relocate down here. It's the first thing we talk about is medical coverage. I assure them that they're going to be covered and stuff like that. So yeah, that's one of the most important things you got to look at. But moving down here to the South Carolina to Myrtle Beach, everything is close by.
Okay, that's good to know, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because people do not want to give up their health care, and I can't blame them.
Yeah,
It's
no.
super important.
Yeah, if you guys enjoying this video, please give me a thumbs up. I mean, you give me a thumbs up. This helps get the channel out there for people who are just like you, who want to know this information, who might find this information valuable. So give it a thumbs up and subscribe because we put out videos every single week. All right, so my number one reason, drum roll, this is my
Wow.
number one reason for moving down here, and I think I alluded to it earlier on, is the cost of living. The cost of living down here. The first thing when I was first searching, when I was in New York and searching where I wanted to move to, the one thing I said, it has to be a state that the cost of living is a lot lower. Not only that, but that property taxes are lower and home prices are lower. Okay. So my main priority was the property taxes because I owned a quarter acre in Smithtown and I was paying about $15,000 in taxes a year. So that was my first, priority, was to make sure that I was moving to a place where I wasn't paying high taxes. So when I looked at Florida, and here's the reason why I decided not to go to Florida, even though, although it was a pension-friendly state, I decided not to go to Florida because as I was looking at the taxes down there, they were close to New York taxes. And I said, I don't want to go to a place that's close to New York in property taxes. So that's the reason why I decided, in Myrtle Beach, because the tax rate down here is ridiculously cheap. It is 4% if it's your primary and 6% if it's your secondary home. They tax it different if it's your secondary home. If it's your primary, it's 4%. So for instance, on a $250,000 home, your taxes would be about $2,300. On a $500,000 home, your taxes would be about, double that. So it would be about $5,000, a little less than $5,000. So a $500,000 home in Suffolk County, how much do you think the taxes would be?
11, 12.
Yeah, 11, 12, almost double.
Yeah.
And the reason why Horry County, which is the county that Myrtle Beach is in, Horry County has the lowest property taxes in all of South Carolina. And the reason why is because of the tourism. So a lot of people may say, oh, it gets busy here in the tourists, and they may hate tourism season, but it's the reason why you have low property taxes. It's because the money that they make from the tourist season.
We have people here with taxes $30,000 and $40,000 in Suffolk County.
Yeah, I remember I sold a house. The taxes were $21,000.
Yeah, so it's awful lot of money.
Yeah, it's totally a lot of money.
And I'd like to say it's worth it, but if you see the condition of our roads and our infrastructure here, I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't know where that money's going, but
yeah,
that's a story for another day, right?
that's a story. Oh, let's talk briefly before I get into the stats here. I'm going to show you some stats too that kind of backs up what I'm saying here with the cost of living. But before we get to that, the first thing people told me when I first moved down here, they go, "Oh, you're gonna hate the traffic down here during tourist season." I looked at the traffic and I go, "This is traffic?" I go, "This is nothing." I go, "Do you realize I lived in New York for years, for my whole life, and traffic down there is ridiculous in New York. You know, down here, even during the busiest season, it's nothing compared to New York, and nothing. Trust me."
Yeah, the average commute time here is crazy. People are getting up like before 6 a.m. to get on the road. You want to know what 6 a.m. looks like
Oh my
in
God.
Suffolk County? It's kind of like that.
Oh my
You
God.
know, you want to be driving to work in the pitch black every
Yeah,
day, and then
terrible.
you come home and it's pitch black, and 6 months out of the year. Yeah, the traffic here is ungodly.
Yeah. But
You know,
it's funny. Everybody tells me the same. They're like, "Oh, it's gonna get, tourist seasons are coming. It's gonna get busy again." I go, honestly, it's like I spent the last, 2.5 years here, and it's nothing
yeah,
compared to New York. But anyway, let's get into the stats, right? I wanted to talk about the cost of living. We're gonna start here. So if you look at this data here from PayScale, the cost of living down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, it's is 8% below the national average. And if we look here at housing is a 32% below the national average. I mean, utilities is up 17% above the national average, and groceries are up, but that's everywhere with inflation going. But still a lot cheaper than New York, as we will see now here. The cost of living in New York, here, the cost of living in New York is what? Is 128% above
higher. Oh,
the
yeah.
national average. Look at housing. Housing is 385% above the national
Of course,
average.
utilities are cheaper.
Yeah. But groceries are a lot more
Yeah,
expensive.
absolutely, absolutely.
So is that crazy? I mean, that's
Insane.
insane.
Yeah, that's insane.
It's insane. And the next thing I wanted to show you, I know we were talking about property value down here. And if we look at the entire MLS system, which doesn't only cover Myrtle Beach, but it covers the surrounding areas as well. As I mentioned, we covered the whole Grand Strand area, which consists of Surfside Beach, North Myrtle Beach, Loris, and all these other surrounding places, Carolina Forest, Conway. For the whole MLS entire system, the property right now, the median home price is $330,000, a little over that, and that is up 6.7% year over year. Now, if we look at Suffolk County, the median price range is $585,000, and that is up 10%, 10.5% year over year. Is that crazy?
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. And yet we have a housing shortage, and people are still clamoring to get into these homes and then clamoring for ways to afford them.
Yeah, it's interesting because we're working right now. You're working with a first responder, in law enforcement, and you've been showing them homes, and
Yeah.
there's multiple offers going on. I mean, I worked up there during COVID. I did real estate up there during COVID, and we had lines and lines, and that's happening again because of the shortage of homes.
You'll see
Um,
75 people. They'll be standing there in the pouring rain, the freezing cold, standing outside waiting to get into an open house. And they come in and they're all dejected. They come in and they're already, their shoulders are down, their heads down, as they say, I'm never going to be able to get my offer accepted, because they don't have cash. People are coming in with cash offers, or they're coming in and going so far above the asking price, and they're covering the spread on an appraisal if the appraisal falls short. And these young people can't come in they don't have the cash.
yeah,
They can't compete, and
it's
they just want a home. They just want a place to call their own. They want to divorce the landlord, right?
Yeah, and it's tough. And these are times where you have to become creative. And not only that, but as a buyer, you have to compromise a little bit, because especially if you're buying your first home, I tell my clients up there, it is a tough season right now, but if it's not going to be your forever home, it's better to park your money into a house now, because as you can see, property value is still going up. I mean, it's up 10% year over year in Suffolk County. So, homes are still going up. So you might as well just compromise a little bit, compromise in that extra, say, in that extra bathroom for now, and just say, hey, I'll settle for that. I'll settle for one less bathroom. I'll settle for one less bedroom. I just need to get into a house. Not only that, but now, something we've been doing is we've been looking at homes that have been sitting on the market a little longer, because there might be not something structurally wrong with the house, but it might not be as appealing. It might need some work.
Work.
Um, so these are things that you have to try to consider to compete in this market. And there's always things that you can do, and as getting getting one of those mortgages. I can't. I'm going drawing a blank.
Renovation.
A renovation loan where you can tack on the renovation loan to your mortgage and fix the house up yourself. So these are things that you have to take into consideration, and some ideas that you can do to get into a house that may not be the perfect house for you, but once you get a renovation loan and you put money into it, your home's going to rise in value instantly.
And if you're a first-time home buyer, you might get some of that money on grant and not have to even repay it.
Right.
So that's good.
So Mary, this was our first.
Well, wait, I didn't get to do my
Oh my
number
God.
one.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My bad.
So my number one barrier for people that don't want to leave New York or afraid to leave New York is family. And it goes to what you were talking about, the cost of living here. Their kids are in the grind. They're working that grind. They're living paycheck to paycheck. And so these older couples are covering childcare because the kids, they all have to work. So they don't want to leave their kids. They don't want to leave their grandkids. They don't even say they don't want to. I can't leave. I can't leave. But a lot of people, and I can't say this is happening for everybody. Of course, if you have to provide childcare and there's absolutely no other option, of course, there's no simple answer for that. But people will say they've made the move and they have a better experience visiting with their kids and grandkids because now they come and stay with them. They'll come and stay. The kids can come for a week or 2 or 3 or 4 in the summer even. And they have found that their kids are using the money that they would have spent maybe on a Disney trip, because now we're going to go visit grandma and grandpa in Myrtle Beach. And they're using that and they're paying for childcare.
Yeah.
And so in the end, grandma and grandpa are able to leave. And they end up having really much more quality of visit when they visit with their grandkids and their kids.
Yeah.
That is heartbreaking.
Yeah, we get that all the time. We've actually had people move back to New York because they miss their family so much. And that's one of the things that you have to take into consideration is family. But at the same time, you alluded to it. A lot of people that move down here, they save money because they really don't have to take these expensive vacations, because we have so many state parks down here. We have 60 miles of beautiful beaches. There's always something to do. If you want to go inland, you can go on an adventure inland. There's tons of stuff to do there as well. So it's really a staycation state if you look at it. You don't really have to spend money on traveling south up to Florida during, the summer, because you have everything here. You have,
Yeah.
you have amusements, you have the rides, you have, bro at the beach, you have all this stuff down here. So that's something to take into consideration.
Yeah, totally.
So Mary, tell me, for our first episode, not bad, huh?
This is great. This
Yeah,
is a nice visit that we got to have too. We're always texting and stuff like that. We actually got to visit with each other and really, really talk about some of these things.
Yeah, this was totally fun. And again, if someone wants to reach you, I know your number's there, but if you want to reach Mary, you can contact her anytime. Her number is right there. If you're looking to, even if you're looking to move within New York and you want to upgrade, downsize. I know you've been talking about, you've been talking to people who are looking to downsize.
Yep.
Whatever it is, you can contact her. She's always available. She's very knowledgeable. She's very diligent. And she'll talk you off a ledge because that's her profession.
That's right. That's where the social worker kicks in.
Yeah, right. So again, Cris Melendez here, the Heroes Agent, helping first responders and members of the military when buying or selling a home. Just visit theheroesagents.com if that is something you're interested in. Again, subscribe, hit that like button, and I'll see you in our next episode.